Hi everyone, I'm Gaurav. Welcome to day 34, and today we'll be building a Netflix clone using React, TypeScript, and the movie database. All right, so let's get started with today's session. Um, so the first thing that we'll do is we'll set up the project. All right, so let's do the project structure. So let's call this project as the Netflix clone. Okay, and we'll use React and we'll be using TypeScript. Okay, all right, let's switch to this folder and let's run npm install. If you're using npm, you can use the alternate commands. Okay, you can use any of the package managers. Okay, um let's open VS Code. All right, and we'll start with by installing some of the packages that we need. So we'll be making use of Tailwind, and let's check out the Tailwind guide for setting up Vite with React. So let's visit tailwindcss.com and let's go to docs and uh, let's search Vite in, and these are the steps that we want to follow. So I'll share the link in the comments with you guys as well. Okay, so the first part we have done, right? We have created the project. Now let's work on this part where we'll install the dependencies related to Tailwind. All right, so I'm using pnpm, so I'll replace npm with that command. All right, and then the next thing that we want to do is we want to initialize the Tailwind config, right? So let's do this part now. Okay, so it has created this Tailwind config file, and then what we would want to do is inside this we want to copy this and replace the contents so that it goes through all of these files, index html and source files with these extensions. Okay, and the next thing that we'll be doing is we'll copy these styles. Let's go to index.css. Let's get rid of all the existing styling, and then let's copy this app.tsx. Let's get rid of the things that we do not require. All right, let's run this from here. So pnpm dev, and you can see that it has this part is working. Tailwind it has started to work, right? If we inspect this, we can see the styles, um, associated with this h1 tag, and we're getting all these styles from Tailwind. Okay, and of course we're using TypeScript. So the basic setup for Tailwind has been completed. The next thing we want to do is we want to add a little bit of tooling for sorting the Tailwind classes. So let's install a package for that as well. Let's go to the terminal, and here I'm pasting this command. I'm installing Prettier and Prettier plugin Tailwind CSS. Okay, and I also need to add a config file, prettierconfig.js, to ensure that this plugin works correctly. So prettier.config.js, and I'm just adding this piece of code, right? This needs to be a CJS file. All right. So this configuration file is telling that we're using this plugin. You might not have to add this configuration file if you're using npm, because it takes care of loading the plugin by default. But since I'm using pnpm, I have to do this additional step. Okay. All right. Let's save this and let's see if it is sorting the files in the correct order. Suppose I add this underline here and paste it here, and once I'm saving it, it's sorting the classes in the order which is recommended by Tailwind. All right, so this part is done. Now let's add routing logic. So for that we need to add the routing package. So we will say pnpm add react router dom. Okay, so it will install that package, and we can see in package.json file that we have added these dependencies, and rest of the things are dev dependencies. All right, and the next thing that we'll be doing is we'll be setting up the routing for this. All right, so we'll go to app.tsx, and here what we will be doing is we'll create a component function app router, and then what we want to do is we want to return this component create browser router, and we'll use create route from elements, and here we'll return the main route. Okay, so we'll say to slash and element equals, let's just return this element for now. And we need to import this package from React. Import this component from React router DOM. Let's save this. Sorry, this needs to be path. All right, and we'll return the app router here. And 1 second, what am I missing? Yeah, actually this needs to be in a variable known as router, and then basically this is going to return a route provider which accepts a router prop, and we'll pass the router which we created over here. All right, and yeah, that is what we'll be doing here. All right, okay, let's see if the setup is working, and we still see the hello world text. All right, so this part is working. Now what we want to do is let's take a look at all the features that we'll be building, right? So let me open Netflix. So this is the default page, and then when we click on sign in, it takes us to the login route. Okay, and then there is this this component which is basically accepting the username and password. And once you sign in, it will take you inside the so it will basically show you this page, and you will have different what do you say, um, views over here. So the default view that we see over here is known as browse, and then we have different categories over here like trending now, popular, new releases, and so on. And we have the header, and then we have some categories over here such as TV shows, movies, new and popular, and then there's a list, and there's information about the user over here basically. um, so these are some of the views. We'll try and build this view, and we'll work on the login functionality and the user management aspect. All right, and in order to get all of this information, we'll make use of um, this website, basically the moviedatabase.org, which they provide a free API. And using this, we can get all the information about different content which is available. So it's an open source alternative to IMDb basically. So over here, you need to sign up and create an account. I've already done that. And then if you go to more, you need to go inside API. And here they have some information about the documentation. And then we'll go to this particular URL, and it gives us access to the API docs. All right. Okay, and we'll be using the APIs related to movies. So, for example, we want to get the top rated movies, right? So, here is an example of that, what kind of response we'll be getting. So, we'll be getting the name of the movie, its, image, right? uh, and what language it is in, how many people have seen it, and what's the rating for this movie, and so on. All right. So this kind of information will be provided through this, and so we'll use the different APIs which are available. Okay. And in order to make this work, we need a API key, right? So that is why we have to register over here. Let's go back to yeah. So here you need to register. Once you have registered, you should see your profile information. Then just go to settings, and once you go to settings, you need to go to API. And here you'll see a different screen where you need to enter some information. Just fill up all of those fields, and then you'll have access to, you'll get a API key. All right, so we need to copy this API key and basically use that API key to use the different endpoints which are provided by this service. So what I'll do is I'll create a env file, okay, and we'll be using that to basically store all the information as to all the configuration related information. Okay, so we'll say wheat underscore API underscore key equals the key that we got from the settings. All right, and I'm just adding that over here, and let's make some more changes while we're at it. Here we will call this as the Netflix clone, and so Netflix also provides its assets. uh, this is the URL. I've shared it in the chat. Let's visit that URL, and you can basically download the logo and the symbol from here. You just select it and then you have the download option. I have already done this part, so I'll just add this information, uh, add these over here. All right, so I have the fav icon. Let me place it here in the public folder. Then we need the logo, so I'll add that as well inside source and then assets. Okay, so we have this ready. Let's go to index, and here we'll just say that the icon is image slash okay. So now you can see that our clone also has this Netflix icon, fav icon over here. All right, okay, so this part is done. Now let's start working on, let's build, let's start working on this part, right, where we're showing the header, some banner information, and the different categories or genres of content which is available on Netflix. So let's start working on this part first, and then we'll build other functionalities such as user management, that is sign in, sign up, and all of those things. Okay, all right. um so for that purpose, let's set up the structure inside our app. All right, so here what we will do is so on the default screen, we basically see this view, right? Um, which is this one. Okay, so we'll leave this part for later. We'll come back to this. And here we'll just show some text over here. Default view. All right, and then we'll add more routes here. Then we need a route for the browse paths, right? So what we'll do is we'll create this, and here we'll show the element which is um, So this one is already there. Then inside this, we need a route for the login. So let's just say h1 login, and then we need another one for the browse path, right? And just a sec. So here we'll just say h1 browse. Okay, what is expected? All right. And what we'll be doing is within the browse, we need a nested route basically. So we'll have another route over here. And we'll call this as index. And we'll create uh, so here what we'll do is we'll define a layout over here, because all of these pages have a header and some content and a footer. Okay, so for that purpose we'll be creating a layout basically. So let's come over here, let's create a new folder called components, and here let's create a file known as layout.tsx, and we'll create a functional component layout. And what this will do is basically we'll have another component over here, which is the header, and let's create header. Okay, and this is going to return the header, and we'll have a main, and this will have the outlet component from React Router DOM. And we'll have a footer as well. All right, so this part is somewhat ready, and here instead of showing the browse, we'll add the layout component here. Okay, and we'll create another folder over here for the different pages that we have, right? So we have the browse page, right? So let's create a file for that. And what we'll do here is the default component that we want to show when we are at the browse route, right, is the browse component. All right, let's see if these changes are working. So let's go to our clone. So this is the default view. If I do /browse, you can see we have the header as well as the browse component showing up. Now let's add some styling information over here. So if we look at the original Netflix here, let's inspect this. And here they have this dark background. If we scroll a bit, they're using this color basically. So let's just copy this value And let's add this to our Tailwind config. Okay, so we are going to extend colors, and within colors let's create a new color known as dark, and let's give the value over here. So instead of this, let's use HSL. Okay, so we have defined a new dark color here, and inside the index file, index.css file, let's go to that file, index.css. Let's define some styling at the root level. Okay, so it is basically this component which has the with this div which has the id root. Let's add some default styling for it. So we are going to say that the background for this is going to be theme, and then we will say colors dot dark. Okay, and similarly the text color, that is going to be theme. So this is a special function which is provided by Tailwind, and here we can use the colors which are available in Tailwind. Okay, and let's say the min height. Okay, the min height is theme, and we'll use height dot screen. Okay, so you can see that this is taking up the entire height. Now let's start working on the individual components. So we have the header component here with us. And here what we will do is this is going to return a header which has navigation. So this is what we are trying to build right now. If you take a look at this, we have the logo. There are some URLs. Okay, and then there is some navigation related to the user. So let's split this up. In here we have three sections. Okay, the first one is for the logo, the next one is for the primary navigation, and then we have the secondary navigation. Okay, and basically what we'll say over here that um, let's use some Tailwind classes. uh, so we'll use a border at the bottom. Okay, border the dash 2. Okay, so that we can easily make out what is where the header is. And let's use some padding in the vertical direction, and we'll say that uh, yeah, there is some padding over here. And then we have the nav, and we'll use grid over here. So we'll say grid columns, and we'll use arbitrary columns over here. So the logo will take up 200 pixels. Then the next column will take up as much space as it requires, and uh, the remaining will also take up 200 pixels. Okay, let's save this. So we have this navigation over here. And then the other thing that we want to do is we want to add a gap between all of these. So first thing that we'll do is we'll say items, we'll align these vertically. So we'll say item center, and we'll say it will have a gap of um, let's use a gap of 4 here. Okay, All right, so we have the logo downloaded, right? So let's add a image tag over here, and let's import Netflix logo from dot slash assets slash. Let's copy this and let's give the path of the file, right? And here we'll provide that as the provide the logo over here, and the alternate is Netflix logo. Okay, all right. um, then the other part is for the navigation, correct? So inside this we'll have a UL, and we'll have some list items, and here we'll use the nav link component from React router. So let's call this as home, and we'll say this will take us to browse basically. Okay, and let's style this. So this will use text small and text gray 300. Okay, all of the links are a bit grayed out, so that is why, right? So when we click on this, it should basically take us over here, and actually even this is clickable. So what we will do here over here is we'll wrap this in a nav link as well, or actually we can use the regular link component from React router DOM. And move this image in here, and here also we'll go to slash browse. Okay, all right. um, let's style this a bit. So we are going to say that this is going to take up a height of around 12. Then we want to ensure that the image fits in this correctly, so we'll say h full, which is height 100%, and width full, which is width 100%, right? And we want that the object is contained like this, or we could have said yeah, I think this is, we'll use the object contain over here. All right, because if we do not do that, the image kind of stretches, right? So we want that. And okay, so there was a typo over here. This should have been item center. Now everything is centrally aligned. Okay, and what else? Right. So we want to basically, when if you look at this over here, whenever we are clicking on it, they're initially grayed out, but the one which is active, it is having this, you know, it's having a white color and it's in bold. All right, so let's add the logic for that. So let's create a function here. Function is active link, and this will receive a special object which is known as is active. So this is coming from React router DOM, and navlink has this special functionality. If you give it the class name property, It is called with two variables, is active and is pending basically. And using these we can determine if the current link is active, and we can style the link accordingly. All right, so we'll pass the function is active over here. This will get this prop, and then what we will do is we will and we need to give a type for this, right? So we'll say is active, this is boolean. Okay, and what we want to do is if it's active, in that case we want to say that uh, the font needs to be semi bold, and the text needs to be white. Okay, and we need to return this. What's wrong? Okay, yeah, and otherwise we return a uh, we can return an empty string, or we can say undefined. Okay, all right. And so you can see right now, this earlier it was gray. Let's add some more links here. So we need a link for TV shows, then movies, and then similarly new and popular. Okay, and what we will do is we'll say that this uses flexbox, and there is a gap of 4 between all of these links. Wait, and let's call this as slash browse slash genre slash browse slash genre. um Movies, for example. Okay, and this one is slash latest. Okay, so you can see that the other links are grayed out, and the first link is appearing like this. Why is it not picking up the flex class? Since we haven't defined routes for these, that is why whenever I click on it, it's not showing us anything. So we have font semi bold, then we have these links. I clicked on it again by accident. Inspect. Okay, I understood the mistake which I made. All of these need to be their own LIs, right? Inside their own list items. So I made a slight mistake. Let's fix this. Um, okay, wait. Okay, so now we have the proper gaps, and these ones are a bit grayed out, and the one which is highlighted, it is, let's say font thin. So these are all thin, and the one which is currently active, it is semi bold. Okay, and we will say text small. All right, so this part is somewhat ready. We'll work on this part when we come here, but for now I'll just add some components here. So search, so we'll display the user info and the search icon. Okay, this all of that will come here. All right, let's create another route just to test if things are working. So apart from the browse, we have another route for um, latest. And here we'll just return some dummy element, and it'll say this is for latest. Now when I click on new and popular, so it's taking me to latest, and this one has become highlighted. Okay, all right. The next thing that we'll do is we'll start working on the API part. All right, so what we'll do is we'll go inside, we'll create all the information that we need related to working with an API. So let's go inside our browse component, and here we want to basically we have a section here, and we have another section inside this. So this will have the banner over here, banner image, and then we have all of the, what do you say, all of the components, uh, all of the different categories for showing the rows over here. So let's create another section over here. Let's just give it some dummy class row so that we are able to identify. So we have the image, and then we have the move categories over here basically. All right, so let's start fetching all of the categories. So for that we'll create a new folder, let's call it as common, and let's create a file known as api.ts. Okay, and here we'll create a function for fetching all of the request information. So export function fetch request. This is going to accept endpoint, and what we will do is we'll create a URL using the let's check out the APIs over here. So for example, we are interested in getting the what do you say, the popular movies. Okay, so let's click on try it out, and this is the URL. Okay, so if we take a look at any of the other endpoints as well, all of them have the same, you know, URL. Let's say try it out. Yeah, so all of them have the base URL which is same, right? imdb.org version 3. So let's copy this, and here we'll create another key, wheat base API equals this thing. Okay, and what we will do is we'll create a URL. So const URL is equal to new URL. This is a built-in class provided by available in JavaScript. Uh, and then we'll pass it the endpoint that we have over here, and we'll use a base uh, API URL which we'll read from the environment file. So in order to read a variable, we say import.meta.env and the name of the key that we want to use, which is this one, right? Okay, and so we created the URL. Then what we want to do is, to this we want to append the API key, right? So if you notice over here, the signature is the, you know, the base URL, then the endpoint and the API key. All right, so let's pass that information here. So URL dot search params dot append, and we will append API underscore key, and we'll import the API key value from the env file, and this is the key value. Okay, because all of, in order to access the API, we need to append the API key in all cases. Then the next thing that we want to do is we want to say const result, or rather uh, response equals await. We'll use the fetch method, and we'll pass it the URL that we created over here. And since we're using await, we need to say async, and we'll say return result, sorry, response dot json, and the type of this is going to be a string. All right, so let's try this out. Let's try this API for the popular ones. Let's copy this, and for testing this out, we have multiple options available. So there is an extension known as Thunder Client. Okay, you can either use that, or we can use another tool known as Postman. Okay, you can download this and you can use it. So let's see if we can make it work with uh, Thunder Client basically. So once it is installed, you should see this icon over here, and let's create a new request. And we need to pass the API key, right? So we'll copy the API key from here, env. Let's copy this value. All right, let's paste the API key here, and we want to get the results in ENIN, and we want, if you look over here, it accepts another optional property known as region. So we'll add another key known as region, and we'll pass the value as IN for India. Let's send the request, and you can see that we are getting the response. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's see the response clearly in JSON hero. Let's give the API URL here, and we have the let's check out the result. So we have all of these fields, right? Backdrop path, which is the image, then which genre does this movie belong to. So these are the different IDs such as action, horror, thriller, so on. This is the ID, this is the language. It's available in English as well as Japanese. This is the name of the movie, Enola Holmes, and these are the other ones as well. Its popularity, release date, titles, and all of this information. Okay, so we have this structure available with us. Let's click on schema, and let's click on copy, and there is another website using which we can basically convert the schema into a TypeScript definition. So let's go to that website. What is it? Transform tools / JSON schema to TypeScript, and let's paste the JSON schema, and it's giving us the TypeScript interface. Let's copy this, and let's paste it here, and we'll call this as type, and we'll give it the name movie result equals this. And if we take a look at this, even this has a structure, right? Let's go to the schema, let's copy this, and let's get a type for this as well. Let's copy this and add it over here. So movie response, and what we will say is that this is of a certain type. Let's use generics over here, and we'll say that the results are of this T type. Okay, all right, and our function is going to basically return movie. This is also going to accept, what do you say, this is going to return a certain type. Okay, so let's do that over here. So we'll use generics here as well. We'll specify T over here, and we'll say as promise of type T. Okay, because we know that this is going to return a promise, right? So we'll specify a specific type, and then it will give us IntelliSense away wherever we need it. And let's do one thing. So our API part is ready, and let's create another file over here. Let's call it as requests.ts, So movies underscore popular. If we go to this, the part which is different is this, right? Movie popular. And so let's copy this entire part and let's set that as the endpoint for that. Let's call these as endpoints actually. And we'll call this as endpoint. Okay, so we don't need the API key. API key will be appending within that function. So we'll just pass the things that we need, such as language and page and region. Okay. All right. Movies popular. And what we will do here is that let's try calling this API within our browse page. So let's say function fetch popular movies. This is going to call fetch request function, which we just created in API. Uh, this is expecting a type, right? So we'll say that this is going to get movie. Wait, I misspelled this. Let's correct this. Movie response. Okay. And this movie response is going to have it's going to get a result which is of certain type, right? So it is a movie result. Okay. And let's provide the endpoint. So the endpoint is coming from endpoint dot movies which are popular. Okay, and let's const popular movies equals this thing, and let's just log this to the console for now to check if whatever we have created that is working correctly or not. And we'll call this from the use effect hook. Fetch popular movies, and we only want this to be called once, so we'll pass a empty dependency array over here. Let's go to the clone. Let's go to the developer tools. So we're getting a promise over here. All right, so since this is an asynchronous function, we need to write a wait and write async. All right, and now we're getting the results, right? As you can see over here, what we'll do now is we'll create another component which will be responsible for showing all of these, rows of movies. So it will have this category and the items associated with that category. But before we get into all of that, let's take a short break, and if you guys have any doubts you can ask me in the comments. Okay. um, Yeah, go ahead, don't be shy. You can ask me any doubts, anything which you haven't understood so far, or if you're not sure what we are doing, you can ask me doubts related to those things. And you can let me know how have you been doing with the e-commerce app in the meantime. Uh, have you completed it, or how much of it is done? Hello? Anybody there? Okay, no worries. If you guys are not in the mood to chat, we'll continue with building the Netflix clone. Um, so let's create a component over here. Let's call it as rows. So yeah, it's good to see that you guys have completed it. Let's call it as content rows dot tsx content rows. All right. What this is going to accept is a title and endpoint. All right. And let's define a type for this. So type row prop equals, it's going to accept a endpoint which is basically a string, and it's also going to accept a title which is once again a string, and let's say the type for this is row prop, and this is going to have a section which has a heading. We'll give it the title, and we will have another section here, and what we will do is we loop through. So here what we need to do, based on the endpoint that we are providing, we need to fetch the data, right? So this code isn't actually required here, so let's move this from here. Let's cut this and paste it inside this component. Let's import the things that we need. Okay, and let's store all of this information in a state. So use state snippet, row data, set row data. Initially, we'll set it as empty. Let's import this. All right, and this is going to basically, once we have it available, what we will do is, instead of calling this as fetch popular movies, you will say uh, fetch row data, and yeah, this part is fine. And here we will say that whatever is the endpoint that this is getting, we'll pass that here. and then we'll update the state, and we'll set the popular movies here like this. And this is basically a array of movie result, and so is this. Movie response is not assignable to. Okay, so here we need to say popular movies dot result. So you can see that because we had given this type, right? We have all the IntelliSense available: page, results, total pages, and we know that the results are going to be of this type. So if you take a look at this, it's giving us the proper IntelliSense here thanks to TypeScript. Okay. All right. Let's add this component over here. So we have the, what do you say, what did we call that component? Content rows. Instead of content rows, let's call it as content row. And this is expecting an endpoint, so we will give it endpoint dot popular movies, and this is accepting a title as well. So title equals uh, new and popular. Okay, let's save this. All right, so we're seeing the title, right? And let's go to the network tab and see if it is fetching the information that we need. So yeah, the call is going through and we're getting all the results. Now let's uh, try and display the information. So let's go back to the content rows component, and here what we will do is we will check uh, const let's rename this as well. Now this is not just going to be movie, so we'll get the response here. All right, and we want to check row data dot map. We want to go through all the data. Once we have a particular row, this is going to return another section basically, and we'll destructure some of the properties like id. So this is equal to a row, so we are interested in the id. Let's see the name of the movie and the backdrop path. Okay, all of these things we are interested in. uh, so let's give this a class. We'll say the overflow in the x direction is auto. Okay, and this will have the, we'll use the image tag. So if we go to the API docs and search for image, all of the images have this base URL. Okay, let's copy this, or let's specify this something like this. Picture, and let's go inside the env file. Wheat base image URI equals this. Okay, and let's go back to the component and let's log the row here one by one. So we have this backdrop path, and what else do we have? We have the poster path as well. So let's see, let's use the poster path. Okay, where is it? Movie result. Do we have the post? Yeah, this one. All right. So here we will say this is going to be the poster path, and let's create a function over here. Function create URL. We'll pass it the path, which is going to be a string, and this is going to return import dot meta dot env dot the base image URI, then the path. Okay, and let's call the create image URL function here, and we'll pass it the poster path, and the alternate for this is going to be the title. All right, let's save this. So it's showing the alt text here. Okay, so this needs to be we need to add one more thing over here, slash original. So I'll just copy this, and you can see that we're getting all of these images, right? Now let's style this a bit. And we are looping through all of these, right? So what we want to do is we want to give this a key, which is nothing but the ID, and let's see, let's give this a width of say 300 pixels, and a height of 300 pixels, and we'll say that this is having full width and full height, something like this. And we wanted to maintain uh, the aspect ratio, so we'll say object contain, and actually this is still a bit too large. Let's make it 200 by 200. Okay, and so these are the different images. Then what we want is we want all of these to appear horizontally, right? Flex, what happened? Oh, sorry, this needs to come here. Okay, and we will say that actually let's make this as inline block. Let's get rid of flex for now. And yeah, so we're getting all of these images for now. And what we want to do is let's style this a bit more. Just wanted to test something out. So we are going to say flex and flex wrap. Let me just go to Tailwind and let's see the classes related to Flexbox. So we do not want these elements to wrap. So we will say flex no wrap. Flex no wrap. Right. And we also do not want that these we do not want them to shrink. Okay. So we'll give it flex initial. And we'll give a slight gap of 2 between all of these. And what we want is that they do not shrink, right? So we need to actually give this class here flex initial. Okay, one sec. I think I'm making some mistake here with the styling. Give me a second. Flex shrink 1, shrink 0. Let's use this for now. Flex none. Okay, let's use this particular one. Flex none. Okay, so now we have the images here, right? And I think a gap isn't needed either. Okay, so we have all of the images. All right, so we have the category and the images related to them. Okay, so this part is done. Let's get another set of categories and we'll style this a bit more. So class margin bottom 2 4 for example. So we have some spacing here between the category and the image. And similarly, what we want to do is let's add another endpoint here. So let's go to the API docs. Let's go inside movies and let's get the top rated ones. So this is the URL for this movie, top rated language, and blah blah blah. So let's paste this inside the common file. So movies underscore top rated. Okay, we don't need the API key. The language will specify as ENIN and page as 1, and this accepts a region as well. So let's pass this. All right, and when we come over here inside our browse tsx, let's add another content row, and this time instead of popular we'll say top rated, and we'll say top rated over here as well. Let's go to our clone. So you can see that it's getting the top rated movies as well. Okay, let's just call these as popular. And similarly, let's get the latest movie. So if we come over here, uh, there's another category such as now playing. Let's use this one. So let's go inside endpoint over here, movies now underscore playing, and here we'll replace this with this. Okay, and let's add another component over here. Now playing. And you can see we have top rated, now playing, and all of these. Okay, so all of these different categories are available, right? So I think somewhat we have finished a basic functionality. Then we'll work on the rest of the part, that is displaying the banner image and showing the detailed information related to this particular movie. We'll work on all of those parts in the next session. If So there's a question in the chat: what is the use of optional chaining? No, TypeScript doesn't take care of it by default. We have optional chaining to ensure that when the value is null, then we do not basically, suppose we get a null response right from the API. So if that response is null and we try to call the map function on it, it will break, right? Because that is something which is happening at runtime. TypeScript takes care of things which it finds error before the code is getting executed. So it has static type checking. So it will not handle such a use case. Okay. And if there are any other doubts, you can ask me over here, or we can move to the Discord voice channel. All right. So we'll end the session here, and we'll if there are any more doubts, you can ask me in the voice channel, okay, in Discord. So I'll see you guys tomorrow, and we'll add more functionality to this project. This is going to have a lot of features, and we'll be using a lot of different components. So looking forward to the next session. Take care, bye bye, and have a wonderful day ahead, or night, or evening, wherever you're watching it from.